Fox News alert, let's focus on Russia. Putin's latest warning to the West, Moscow, ready for nuclear war.
Они у нас постоянно находятся в состоянии боевой готовности. А наша триада, ядерная триада, это у нас, да, американцев, на самом деле, продвинулись гораздо больше. У нас она более современная.
Breaking news coming out in the last 48 hours of nuclear war warnings, as Putin says Russia is ready to use nuclear weapons, and he says that his country's nuclear capabilities are superior to that of the United States. Here's another article that came out: Russia ready for nuclear war, Putin claims. We have them with us at all times, constantly in a state of combat readiness. Putin warns again that Russia is ready to use nuclear weapons if its sovereignty is threatened, and China responding to this yesterday. This article coming out today, China responds to Putin's nuclear weapons warning. Beijing said Wednesday that nuclear powers should jointly seek de-escalation following Vladimir Putin's statement that Russia is prepared for a possible nuclear conflict. Now, asked to respond, the Chinese foreign minister stressed that nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. China believes that all nuclear weapon states need to embrace the idea of common security and uphold global strategic balance and stability. Under the current circumstances, parties need to take concrete action and jointly seek de-escalation at this time. Let me know if you agree with China. But take a look at this. As you'll recall, just a couple months ago, back in November, Putin pulls Russia out of the nuclear test ban treaty. The U.S. signed a comprehensive nuclear test ban treaty with Russia in 1996, but failed to ratify the treaty as Russia did back in 2000. They're saying we need this treaty again because right now there are warnings of potential nuclear war, Russia warning the West. Now, as I mentioned, headlines coming out in the last 48 hours, but I'm going to be sharing with you some video footage so that way you can see it for yourself. Now, speaking of major warnings, if you missed the video yesterday, you might want to check it out, as FBI Director Wray warned yet again that we are looking at a potential attack in the United States. So stick around to the end for some more updates on that, but let's go ahead and dive right in and get you caught up on the latest, share with you the latest video footage of these new warnings coming from Russia. But before we do me a quick favor. If you appreciate the updates, don't forget, take a quick second, smash that like button for me, helps out the channel a ton. Hit subscribe to stay up to date. It's totally free. Why not? And also, if you want to prepare for anything that could happen in 2024, I have tons of resources for my audience linked in the description below, including a newsletter, a free guide on power grid failures, and also additional medications should we see more cyber attacks taking down infrastructure systems. But with that being said, you guys, let's go ahead and dive right in. Take a look at the video footage of what's been unfolding in the past 48 hours.
Fox News alert, let's focus on Russia. President Vladimir Putin says Moscow ready for nuclear war if threatened. Putin's latest warning to the West as some NATO nations like France and Poland refuse to rule out sending troops to Ukraine.
Lucas Tomlinson joins us live from Washington. Hey, Lucas.
Good morning, Steve, Ainsley, and Brian. This is the second time since late last month that Putin has warned he's ready to use nukes if Russian sovereignty is threatened. This time on the eve of his election, which is all but assured, of course, that he will continue running the country for another 6 years. He first rose to power 25 years ago when Bill Clinton was president. In a new interview, Putin said, quote, "From a military technical point of view, we are, of course, ready. There are enough specialists in the field of Russian-American relations and in the field of strategic restraint. Therefore, I don't think that here everything is rushing to nuclear confrontation, but we are ready for this." Putin added he doesn't think the world is headed toward nuclear war. The nuclear threats have ramped up after French President Emmanuel Macron recently refused to rule out sending troops to Ukraine. As you guys mentioned, House Democrats and some centrist Republicans are looking at a way to force a vote on the Senate's $95 billion aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, using a discharge petition, a procedure that has not been used in Congress in nearly a decade. The GOP has another bill that would reduce spending to $66 billion to focus on weapons for Ukraine, as well as money to strengthen the southern border of the United States. Now, speaking of defense spending, President Biden's new budget only increases defense spending by 1%, which is a cut when you factor in inflation. This would be the fourth straight cut to defense under Biden. And in case you guys are wondering, the U.S. military keeps tactical nukes in Europe in 5 countries: Belgium, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, and Turkey. And Britain is prepared to bring American nukes back after removing them back in 2008, guys.
All right, Lucas, thank you very much. Live report from Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, let's bring in Florida Republican Congressman Corey Mills, who is on the Foreign Affairs and Armed Services Committee. He joins us right now. Corey, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So what do you make of Putin kind of out of nowhere warning the West that Russia is ready for war? How much does it have to do with Ukraine, or how much does it have to do with, as Lucas just said, this week he stands for re-election? Maybe this is for the domestic audience.
Well, I mean, it's not the first time that Vladimir Putin has made comments regarding any type of a nuclear readiness, or even in the past where he said that he was prepared to use tactical small nuclear strikes within Ukraine. This obviously came under a tremendous amount of scrutiny when it came by the international community, and that's why I think he was very cautious in his wording this time to say, well, of course we're ready. Well, that's the case with all nuclear-armed nations. But if you do remember that this individual has also violated treaties multiple times, which is why President Trump removed us from the INF treaty to begin with. So I think it's a little bit of a political rhetoric to allow himself to be re-elected and tell the Russian people that I'm strong, I am ready to fight, and that we will not lose our sovereignty. But I think it's also a bit of a warning, too, where he has actually tried to bring a peace talk before the Ukrainians as well as for the international community, which he blames the U.S. for trying to basically stonewall. And so I think that there is a point of negotiation that can still be had. I think that, as he said, they're not rushing towards nuclear war. But again, as a nuclear nation, of course, he would be ready just as we are.
Yeah, Congressman, another public warning from Putin just to discourage us, Americans, from getting involved. But the House Democrats and some of the centrist Republicans want this aid package. It's $95 billion for Ukraine. But many Republicans are saying it needs to include something, language about our southern border, to protect our southern border. The U.S. Central Intelligence Agency Director, William Burns, he said earlier this week, if the West didn't provide proper support for Ukraine, Kyiv would lose more territory to Russia, which could embolden China. What do you say about the funding?
Well, first off, let me just go ahead and say that the CIA director are political appointees, and we know this, so he's going to echo anything that the Democrat Party and the Biden administration would like him to echo. I don't think that we should go ahead and ever lump our southern border funding into international aid packages. We must prioritize our southern border first. That's the greatest threat to American lives and to American safety and American sovereignty. I like what Speaker Mike Johnson has said, where he said we will not bring a single Ukrainian package to the floor to vote on until our southern border is closed. That is the right response. And so I am not in favor of spending $95 billion knowing that we're at $34 trillion in debt. And as it was stated earlier, we've got a negative of 1% spending caps every single year under the Biden administration. We're actually declining under Bidenomics to fund our own military, to be prepared and ready and robust. Now, we're the strongest volunteer armed forces in the world, but that doesn't mean that we go ahead and cut our military spending or not secure our own border in the efforts of securing others.
It's going to be interesting because Vladimir Putin, if he gets Ukraine, you know he's not going to stop. They attack a NATO nation. It's going to cost us a lot more even to deploy troops in those NATO countries, which has already cost us more since they invaded Ukraine. But I agree with you. They should separate them both. Obviously, they got themselves in trouble in the Senate because they didn't agree with the bipartisan deal on the border. Therefore, the aid gets stopped and the border deal gets stopped, and the Democrats walk away with a talking point on that they didn't deserve because they broke the border. They have no interest in going to the border, and now they're saying that you guys are the ones standing in the way of the border. But we understand $200 million has been repurposed that should help them out for the next few weeks, and they're going to be sending ATACMS over there. What have you heard about that?
Well, the ATACMS discussion has been happening for quite some time. That was going to be a follow-up to the HIMARS system that was approved right before I came into Congress, actually. And it's kind of been slow-rolled. You know, it started out as the Javelin, then it became the HIMARS, then it became the ATACMS. Right. You're seeing where a readiness and availability of longer-range strike capabilities for defense is actually necessary, and so I do see that. But again, we should not have been involved in this war the way that we were from the beginning. This is an EU matter that we should have been supporting in a different element, and I do agree we should never be putting troops on the ground, but I'm not so confident that they're going to attack a NATO nation knowing that Article 5 can get enacted. I don't think Vladimir Putin is that suicidal on this. I think he's a little more tactical.
So there you have it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Russian President Vladimir Putin warning that if the sovereignty of Russia is threatened, they are prepared, they are ready, they stay ready to combat with nuclear force. Now, in addition to that, speaking of warnings, as I mentioned, word coming out from the FBI in just the last 48 hours as well, that the United States is currently facing a major threat of potential attacks on our soil. And they're saying that those that want to do this, they are already here. Now, to get the latest information on that, be sure to check out this video right here next as I cover it in detail for you. And as more information rolls out, I'll be sure to keep you up to date here on the channel. But that is the latest, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.